Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man walah, amma ba'd. So, this video, by the permission and will and ability that Allah gives me, is focused on the following components. Number one is balancing the incentives or the benefits or the quote-unquote rewards that one may get from being married versus the potential harm, depending on who they choose to marry and also who they are as a person going into marriage. Number two, it will have some advices regarding the role of a potential bride or single Muslim woman's father in allowing or inhibiting access for her daughter to be courted and communicated with before marriage. And number three is it has a little bit, it will not be in depth or even totally addressing the role of both the woman, also the male, of consulting other people in his or her family on the decision of who they are talking to for marriage, well before even the mutual decision is made that both male and female want to marry each other. So Bismillah. Number one, there is an axiom in Islamic fiqh, qa'ida fiqhiyya, and it is not just a legal maxim in the fiqh, but it is from al-qawa'id al-kulliyya. They are from the 5 great major maxims of Islamic law. And some scholars say the entire religion falls back under this one maxim. And from those that I remember, I believe it was who was titled Sultan al-Ulama al-Uzz ibn Abdul Salam rahimahullah, Izzuddin ibn Abdul Salam. He's a scholar who left Syria and spent the latter portion of his life in Egypt, I believe in the 6th century Hijri, if I'm not mistaken. And this maxim is درء المفاسد أولى من جلب المصالح, or دفع الضرر أولى من جلب المنافع. That warding off harm takes precedence than attracting benefit or good. Right? So a simple analogy in life: if you have someone, may Allah forbid, pointing a gun at your face and wants to take your life, and another person said, here's $500. The logical person, without shadow of doubt, would rather have this threat and danger to their life of violence from the shooter eliminated than take the $500. So why I start with this is understanding that yes, marriage is a great gift from Allah Azza wa Jal, and it has tremendous benefits for those who follow the guidance of Allah and His Messenger Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. However, those that go into marriage, be it male or female, always remember that as much as you want benefit coming to you from being married, as you know, I don't know other places in the world, but growing up in a non-Muslim country, land as the USA and others, a lot of the youth have heard, and I think continuously hear from the older generation, the incentives of marriage and the bliss of marriage and this and that, which beyond a shadow of a doubt exists. However, they also need to consider what is the risk, what is the loss, what Ashraf al-Qatada said that Aylin Nisa, men are weak for women. As the Prophet ﷺ said, ما تركت فتنة بعده أضر على الرجال من النساء. The Prophet ﷺ said, I have not left behind a trial or tribulation which is more dangerous or possibly more tempting for a man than women. So men are vulnerable to women, so that who realizes I'm a servant of Allah and I can only lawfully fulfill my desires with the opposite gender through marriage in Allah's religion. Any other relationship is illicit and prohibited and is also reprehensible. There is punishment liable for it in this world and the next. So a lot of males are quick to get married for that reason. As the Prophet ﷺ said, يا معشر الشباب من استطاع منكم الباءة فليتزوج فإنه أغض للبصر وأحصن للفرج ومن لم يستطع فعليه بالصوم فإن له وجاء The Prophet ﷺ said that, O community of young men, whoever is capable of you to get married, and that capability is not just the financial ability but also having a certain level of maturity, a certain level of self-discipline, being able to fulfill the rights of a wife, which is beyond her maskan, where she lives, paying for that, and her malbas, her clothing, and her mat'am, and her food and other essentials. But it takes beyond that. I don't want to get involved in too many different topics on this video, but this whole discourse of what is a high value man, and the ignorant person is going to define him by his ignorance, or he has to earn 150k and this and that. Lord, this is an insult to a person who thinks he knows what a man is. Because if you look in the Quran, when Allah brought the word rijal in the Quran, men, He stipulated it with qualities related to their taqwa, their fear of Allah, their character, their discipline. So anyway, that's a different topic. But the point is, those that are capable in the lens of the Sharia for fulfilling the rights of a wife and a spouse, then let them get married, because the Prophet said it is more likely to lead to one lowering his gaze, his vision, from looking at the opposite gender with lust, and also it is more protective of his chastity. So anyway, the point is that lust is not something that is negative, because if you look in the wisdom of it, if a man did not desire a woman, although women, Allah are the ones who designed and created for the fertilization of a child in her womb, but without a man's lust, and I mean this in the lens of marriage, if he did not desire his spouse, then what will lead him to make an act that will lead to the fertilization and conception of a child in his wife's womb? So all those women who might say, oh, men need to just control their death. No, there's a hikmah, there's a wisdom Allah put in a man, because a man is the one who gives to a woman that seed which, if Allah wills, will create life. فَجَعَلَ مِنْهُ الزَّوْجَيْنِ الذَّكَرَ وَالْأُنْثَى. That مِنْ نُطْفَةٍ that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Surah Al-Qiyamah. إلى ربك يومئذ المساق فلا صدق ولا صلى ولكن كذب وتولى ثم ذهب إلى أهله يتمطى أولى لك فأولى ثم أولى لك فأولى أن يحسب الإنسان وإن يترك سدى. الله ألم يكن نطفة من مني يمنى، في قراءة من مني تمنى، ثم كان علقة فخلق فسوى فجعل منه الزوجين الذكر والأنثى. The point of the verse is to come that through the man, for lack of, I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of, but anyway, the word insemination of a man, Allah determines if the gender of that child will be male or female. Any point. So that is a common reason that leads men to seek a spouse for marriage, at least those that want to hear about Allah's rules. also, she has a desire for companionship. She has a desire for companionship. And sometimes that desire for companionship can be the actual experience of motherhood. She wants to have children. This is a natural fitrah, a natural disposition Allah put in those women whose fitrah has not been tainted to want motherhood. And naturally, she will want a man who is responsible to share that experience with, to raise children with. So the point being, now, if these are the incentives, beyond that, I mean, there's so many other incentives. There is beyond physical attraction, emotional attraction, intellectual attraction, etc., etc. A source of spiritual intimacy when two spouses fear Allah Azza wa Jal and want to live in partnership together. The point I'm trying to bring is that what also needs to be looked at, what is the harm that can come from this. And I will mainly address this in the case of the sister and her experience of what the harm that can come first. And then the brother, I don't think it needs to be said much, because a lot of men or males that I know are constantly advised by older men on the khatar and the danger and the risk that could come from marrying the wrong woman. Because many men have continuously made this mistake and perhaps will in the future, that, pursuing lust over that which is something more long-lasting and purposeful to select the brother. So my sister, or any person who hears this message, you can take this message to another Muslim. Imagine if there was a person you did not know that well. People would be careful letting that person into their own life. For example, if somebody says, put my number in your phone, it's like, why should I put your contact in my phone, or why should I give you my phone? I don't trust you. I need privacy. Then let's take it a step further. If somebody you didn't know that well ended up somehow inside of the confines of your home, could be in a total stranger opening up your refrigerator. You'd be like, what is this stranger doing in my refrigerator? And then something that is far beyond, before I say that, something that is beyond just a phone number and accessing one's home. What if you gave somebody the login information for your bank account that you did not trust that well? That was not someone who you knew well enough, long enough. The people be like, why would you give this stranger access to your bank account? Coming full circle, the most intimate, private, secure place you can ever let a man into is your womb. What I'm trying to say is, when you are going into thinking for marriage or considering someone for marriage, by default, put the role of children in there. No matter what your timeline is, if you don't want to have kids for 7, 8, 10 years down the whatever, by default, consider that person with your child. And now consider, is this someone that is worthwhile to be married to or not? Remember, be careful who you let in your womb. Be careful who you let in your womb. Contraceptives aside and everything. Because there is nobody that can not just impact you and your well-being as a woman, a wife, but those that impact your progeny. Imagine. Okay, maybe they may lead to this conceptualization, the conception or the fertilization of one child. But imagine the presence of quality or the absence of quality in that man or person. It doesn't just impact your one child. It can impact generations, because who your child grows up to be as an adult that which is positive and negative, present and absent, it will impact how he or she parents. It impacts how your potential grandchildren will be raised and great-grandchild. So that's why. Be careful who you let in your room. I know it may sound simple at words, but when those emotions take, a hold of you and you feel, I love this guy, I can't live without him. Remember, emotions come and go, love comes and goes. But parenting, child rearing, and the future of your progeny, that's something that stays. As for men, I don't know how many other ways this decision could be taken the wrong way, but it's commonly known. A man, if may Allah forbid, he has an illness, he can bounce back from it. He lost his business investment, he can bounce back from it. He, may Allah forbid, could have lost, his home, his car, etc. He can bounce back from it. But it's very seldom a man who ends up with a wrong woman, a bad woman. That is something by witnesses of, as I say, the OG generation, is something very difficult to bounce back from. And I wanted to record a video before this mentioning the positive aspects of a good, righteous Muslim woman to start off, because one, it's something that every Muslim should actualize and they should realize and perceive. But unfortunately, although there is a large presence of ills and vices in women in society, just as men, whenever the vices of women are spoken of, the knee-jerk reflex is, how can you talk about women? Look at what these men have done. Of course, no one is ignoring the evil that they have done. But the same way in medicine, when you have a population of different diseases and illnesses, yes, there are some patients that go to the emergency room or they go to intensive care unit or trauma, but that does not ignore the other percentage of population of women in society, that doesn't ignore the other percentage of population of society who have diseases, who have conditions, who have injuries that need treatment, but they may not be emergency room. So anyway, as a man, you have to think very forward, as that not just in this world, but in the akhirah. Because the same way people will say at the time of love and their first, honeymoon period together, I want to be your spouse in the akhirah. But that lifestyle that is led, if it is not according to the obedience of Allah and the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, can cause not just separation in this dunya, but people will be enemies on the Day of Judgment. As Allah said, "Al-akhillau yawma'idhin ba'duhum li ba'din aduwwun illa al-muttaqin." On that day, the Day of Judgment, the close family members, the beloved of one another, will be, or the close friends of one another, will be enemies to one another, except the people of taqwa. So that's why the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that الدنيا كلها متاع وخير متاعها المرأة الصالحة. The hadith of Tirmidhi. This whole world is a commodity, a tool that can be used, but not subject to it. But the best, provision you can get in this world is a righteous woman. Another video, inshallah, be dedicated to not just making dua for that person to pick you, but having qualities that person would want to accept your proposal or life with you in marriage. And the Prophet ﷺ also mentioned, مَسْتَفَادَ مُؤْمِنٌ بَعْدَ تَقْوَى اللَّهِ عَزَّ وَجَلَّ خَيْرٌ لَهُ مِنْ زَوْجَةٍ صَالِحَةٍ تُعِينُهُ عَلَى دِينِهِ. The translation of the hadith: a believing man doesn't benefit something more after the taqwa of Allah than a righteous wife who helps him in his religion. So remember, lust comes and goes, vibes come and go, looks come and go, and I'm not discrediting physical attraction, but remember, in your grave, the person you probably spent the most time with in your life is your spouse. So the Prophet said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِطُ. The person is on the religion of his friend, so let him beware of who he befriends, who he accompanies. So that's the first part, inshallah. So another point of consideration after mentioning how essential a righteous, dutiful, obedient, qanita Muslim woman is to the salah and the prosperity of a Muslim man, is also to realize as a man, the same way we mentioned earlier, a woman has to be careful who she lets in her womb to be the father of her child. A man also be very careful who could become the mother of your child. Because as a man, once that seed is emitted, it's out of your hands, in the sense if Allah chooses for that to lead to the conception or fertilization of a embryo and future child. So remember that, because there's no one that is more influential on a human being than their mother. Those formative early child years and even after, they last and impact more than any other. So that's why the opening, statement of avoiding harm is more essential than attaining benefit. Is that, alhamdulillah, if there is somebody that you are confident that would be a good spouse and a good parent, either mother to the child of a male or father to the child of a female, then bismillah, I'm not here to sow seeds of doubt or suspicion, but it's just saying to take this decision with caution and carefully, because of what harm may emit. I mean, some people, when they bring up this subject for men, especially in this era, and the land we live in, with the law of the splitting of assets and wealth and divorce or alimony, even non-Muslims will bring up this subject and say there's more harm than benefit to marry now, because it's all risk for a male, in the sense if it goes wrong, 85% of divorces, I don't know if this statistic changed, are filed by a woman. Even though it's not saying it's justified in Islam, but one statistic I saw that made me laugh, in the sense that in that culture of women who want to blame everything on the man, in those marriages, what they call a marriage of lesbians, two gay women or lesbian women, their divorce rate is like 73%. So the 85% of women file the divorce for when they're separating from a man, and 73% of women file the divorce when they're separating from their female quote unquote partner or whatever. I'm not sure what they assigned marital titles in a lesbian marriage, or a so-called lesbian marriage within Islamic framework. So the point is, a lot of men are very careful about this nowadays because of the risk of losing their wealth. But I would say that's not, the biggest fear of any person who's grounded by Allah and taqwa, grounded in iman. Their greatest fear is the day of judgment and their end in the akhirah. So that is what should be the most critical point of consideration in all of our decisions, but particularly when it comes to marriage, because this person that is being chosen can harm one's akhirah as well, not just their dunya. It can harm the child that Allah may give them, or the children that Allah may give them. And some interpretation, which I came across in At-Targhib wa Tarhib of Al-Munziri rahimahullah, a collection of hadith from a scholar who was from Egypt in the 4th century after the Hijrah. And the famous dua, رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. The dua, Surah Al-Baqarah, Allah says, those people who make the dua, oh our Lord, give us good in this world and good in the next life, and save us from the punishment of the fire. One of the ihtimalat, the possibilities that Ali interpreted it in that book that is reported, he said that asking Allah for good in this world is a righteous wife, and asking Allah for asking Allah for good in the next life is the maiden of the Jannah, and being asking for protection from Adab and Nar, he said, is a bad wife in this dunya. Is a bad wife. So the point is, I'm not here to scapegoat women, but as you know, choose with caution, be careful, because those consequences will affect you. Whether that person chooses not to uphold their responsibility or not, they will have to be judged for it in the akhirah, but you want to be saved from missing out on the potential of good by choosing that partner, right or wrong. So that was the first point about avoiding harm. It takes precedence over benefit. The second point was, and it kind of relates to what the advice was to the sisters or the woman, and being careful who she lets in her womb, to know how critical that decision is. I said in the beginning of the video that there would be some advices to the father, who is the most appropriate and deserving guardian, Wali, of a woman. And this relationship of being Wali is before she becomes the age of marriage. I wanted to give advices to those fathers who may choose not to talk to their daughters from an age when she hits puberty, when she hits, adolescence, when she hits her teenage years, or and that age, even if it is a quote-unquote gender segregated society, because in lands where there is gender segregation, you will still find the desire a young man has for a young girl and a young girl has for a young guy. Their societies also are plagued and affected by either prohibited communication or even the fact of the cases of illegitimate, sexual relations between them, even though it's a Muslim society. But whether the person is in a gender segregated society or non-gender segregated society, these conversations should happen between a father and a daughter, where a father understands his daughter's fitrah, her nature, to want to be with a good man, and to have a emotionally secure and safe relationship with a man, but also to tell her the harms and the danger of boys out there, men out there, that are driven by lust. It's not something to shy away from, right? Some cultures, they may say, oh, we have haya, we have shyness, we can't tell our children. Think, what is a greater harm? What is a greater harm? Either your uncomfortable emotional feeling of talking to your daughter and telling her to being real about it. And look, there's guys out there, they will, as we, in this part of the world, they'll spit that game, they'll game you up as women follow their ears and men follow their eyes. just think any guy out there that gives you attention, that says affectionate words, that buys you maybe gifts or whatever they may try to do, is best for you, because you have to safeguard not your chastity, and also your heart. Like, imagine your most vital organ. Like, some people would say, I don't want to spend time thinking of you. You ain't nobody. Like, your thoughts are something that come and go. But some people, when they know that other person doesn't have value to them or significance, they won't waste a second thinking about it. Imagine someone who may not have value and they occupy your heart. Like, what you gonna do about that? The most vital organ of yours. You have to protect that. You have to protect that. So fathers should have this conversation, especially in societies where men are very one second. Men can be predatory. It's not just the fear of sexual violence, may Allah forbid, or the fear of rape or all these other things. But there's predatory men that want to use a woman for not just sex. They may abuse her financially, they may abuse her emotionally, they may abuse her psychologically. And I'm pretty sure with how big the divorce rate is out there, there may not be a woman out there or a young lady who hasn't heard the trauma that some divorced women have gone through because of the person that they were married off to, or they chose to marry without being cautious about. So fathers should have had that conversation a long time ago. I think men are more common to tell their son about the dangers of being with the wrong woman, as sometimes the way a man may complain of what he doesn't like of his son's mother, or his wife or ex-wife. Mothers, Allah knows best, probably would tell their daughter also things to be careful of who she chooses as her partner. But at the end of the day, a man knows how a man thinks, right? So if his daughter is not aware of some of the dangers out there, this isn't even entailing her being in solitude or alone with a man, just understanding the danger that exists out there. So that's something that should be have conversations with. If it hasn't started, today is the opportunity to do it. Don't leave it off for tomorrow, because the way you may feel shy and uncomfortable about telling your daughter this in this world, imagine what is going to be a shame potentially if she ends up in the wrong hands in marriage, and the ill effects that can come from that. What is a bigger shame? It's not really a shame to talk about these things. Inna Allah la yastahi min al-haq. As I believe, I forget which of the Sahabiyat, I'm not sure, was it Sulaim? I could be wrong. But she came to the Prophet ﷺ, and Aisha was the one who praised them and said, Ni'mu nisa'i al-ansar, what excellent women are the women of the Ansar. Lam yamna'hunna haya'uhunna an yatafaqqahna fi ad-din. That what excellent women are the women of the Ansar, their modesty did not prevent them from understanding the religion. And then she asked the question, does a woman have to take a ritual bath of ghusl when she sees herself emit fluid in her sleep? So the point is, she came and said, O Prophet of Allah, Inna Allah la yastahi min haqq. O Allah, O Prophet of Allah, Allah does not shy away from the truth. So this is what the point is, that there is a haya that keeps us away from bad deeds. That is necessary. It is intertwined with iman. As the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, that إنما أدرك الناس من كلام النبوة الأولى إذا لم تستحي فاصنع ما شئت. that what was a teaching from every prophet in the earlier generations. He said, Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, when you don't feel shy, do whatever you want. In the sense, when people don't have any shyness, as they say in this culture, I don't give a bleep, I don't give a bleep, and then they end up doing the most heinous, horrific, embarrassing, shameless acts because they don't have shame that blocks them. But this is not a shame when you don't want to talk to your child, who could be an adolescent, who could be in puberty age, who could be even beyond that age. And they may have hailed from a culture that is far more modest than this, atheist, agnostic, misguided society, to the point they can't even come to terms on agreement of who is a man and who is a woman. As one of my friends is Imam, he said, these people think their ancestry are apes, so now they can't agree on who's a man and who's a woman. So the point is, this is the truth, to tell your daughter the risk of who's out there that could come to her if she's in high school. And Muslim youth might feel like, why can't I date? I want to be. Tell them this is the risk that can come. Allah, if He prohibited something, it's for a hikmah, it's for wisdom. If He legislated something, it's for a hikmah, it's for wisdom. So that was the second point. And the father advising his daughter, as he wills. I'm not here to spoon feed what he should say, but to show her what is the harm that can come. Instead of thinking marriage is just a bunch of, photos taken on a wedding night, and I get a nice dress, and I have bridesmaids, and I have elaborate decorations, and I have, all these mahar and gifts and honeymoon is beyond that. As the husband is the one who has the most rights over his wife from the creation, and the mother has the most rights on the man, on the husband, than out of all the women in creation. So anyway, that was the second point. The third point was, as a Muslim woman, to tread carefully, whether you think you're independent, whether you think you're intelligent enough, whether you think you know your heart or you know who's best for you in marriage. Remember, before what you want, do what Allah wants. And this may be a bitter pill to swallow, but those women that may fear, what if I don't ever find anybody to get married, I'm going to be lonely, I may not ever have kids, etc. Remember, the objective is fine to want to be married, but the path you go about it, that is your demonstration, or any person's demonstration of going after what they want. When Allah legislated a path in Sharia, and He also prohibited other ways to do it, is you're showing, am I a servant of Allah truly, or am I a servant of my desires? Plain and simple. So even if a Muslim woman feared Allah and stayed away from prohibited means of seeking marriage, even if the majority of the population was doing it where she was, or the majority of her generation, remember, her number one relationship is with Allah. And if she pleases Allah, she won. Whether she got no proposals or she got 500 proposals. She pleased Allah, she won. What we are responsible of, even as a man, many men may avoid going away the current times and eras and generation of seeking a spouse that doesn't include the presence of the Wali or guarding the tenets of Sharia, even though the majority of peers are getting married that way, but they stay chaste and they avoid the disobedience of Allah Azza wa Jal. At the end of the day, Allah's pleasure is over our pleasure. So now, saying that, understanding pleasing Allah is more important than our happiness and our fulfillment and our enjoyment. As remembering, before I continue, sabr, a category of it is staying away from the haram, staying away from what Allah prohibited. Sabr is not just on the masa'ib. May Allah forbid I got a finger cut off, or may Allah forbid I lost an eye, or may Allah forbid I was robbed of all my assets. That's sabr ala al-masa'ib, on the calamities. But the sabr that leads us to having patience on the calamities is the everyday moments where we're patient, persistent on obeying Allah and His commandments, patient and persistent on staying away from the disobedience of Allah. So if it's disobedience to Allah in the way of pursuing a husband, or for the guy pursuing a wife, it takes sabr. And sabr is the thing that the angels will greet the believers with when they enter Jannah. Salamun alaykum bima sabartum. They will say, peace upon you. Imagine you enter Jannah and you look back, and whatever you thought was humiliation, or you thought was, shame. Oh, these people just keep telling me I'm not married and I'm getting too old and this, and you are patient on not disobeying Allah. The angels will say, peace upon you for the patience you had in the worldly life. So excellent is the final home of Jannah. So now, saying that to the sister, no matter what her familiarity with men is, no matter what her education level is, no matter what her age is, even no matter what her relationship history was, that woman will, for pleasing Allah, number one, number two, saving herself from more harm, 10 times out of 10 will better off be in a position for her marriage to be saved from potential harm when she's represented by a wali. Even in this worldly life, when you need negotiations, for example, I don't know too many other examples at the tip of my tongue now, but in the sports world, when you have a prime athlete who's having a contract negotiation, they are represented by their agent, because that agent is going to look out for the interests of their athlete regarding the fine print of that contract, so that that athlete gets the best of what they're due. So similarly, as a Muslim woman, the comparison here is not about the best offer in money. I'm saying a man will 10 times out of 10 look out for the honor of his daughter, his sister, his niece, his granddaughter, whoever else is a wali, because he does not want this man to violate the honor of this woman. And a lot of times, unfortunately, when the bridges burn and the relationship goes sour, sometimes if those men out there, I don't know how many a percentage out there, that violate the honor of a woman and misuse her and misappropriate her, then at that point, not just the family, the entire clan, tribe, whatever, societal categorizations they have, will come for the vengeance of that woman. But from when she was growing up, when she was maturing, when she was, budding in the sense she was becoming a woman, how much energy was spent to educate her about the harms of what a man could have done. And no, I'm not discrediting the fact that it's qadr Allah, but at the end of the day, we have a responsibility to acquire knowledge and enact that knowledge in the right way. So how much energy was spent educating her of the dangers that could happen if she does this, based off of raw emotion, or she doesn't go with the protection of her family. But the fact that father who's there, every father wants a good woman for his daughter. I don't know any father who wants his daughter to be with a evil man. I don't know any human, even if they're not Muslim. Yes, there are some out there who are not even strict, they're unrealistic. Knowing his daughter, he loves her. But in society, where does his daughter rank in these criteria? And then some have unrealistic expectations. I think a man who has, mashallah, all these great accolades will pick his daughter. That man's gonna look in society at a single woman, which is the best quality I can get. He's not just gonna pick somebody because he says, I need you for my daughter. The point is, coming back, not to get off topic too much, that any sister out there who may feel shy to have her dad involved or her wali involved, imagine the shyness in front of Allah in the day of judgment. If Allah asks, I legislated for all of my servants' marriage, I legislated the way for you to get married, and you chose to do it in my disobedience. What shyness can compare in this life to that day on the day of judgment? It's just something to consider. And to have a loving relationship doesn't mean you shy away from necessary conversations. So anyway, I took a little too much off on on a tangent from what I was talking about. But the same way that person, when they want the best representative in their contract negotiation, they have an attorney, they have a an agent, somebody to represent them. As a Muslim woman, it does not make you less honorable in any way to be represented by a male wali. In fact, that is more honor for you. Imagine a man who Allah made the first human, Adam alayhi salam, with all of his accolades and manaqib and positive traits and whatnot. The woman that comes now, she is now being protected, being honored, being looked after and whatnot by this man. And it's not her dishonor. It's not her dishonor in any way. It is in fact an honor for her, right? How many women have complained now about trying to find out life all on their own, and they get in their 40s and 50s and they're recording these videos of regret. I wish I had kids. I wish I had family. I wish I understood the hoax of what feminism was. So the point is, Allah said, Allah ya'lamu man khalaq. Does not the one who created know best? Allah knew before you existed what your wants and your fears were and what's best for you. He created you. He legislated it this way. And I will add this before maybe shaitan plays the devil's advocate and say, so even if I didn't follow a wali, so and so sister got married and she's in a good, she's happy, or so and so brother got married and he's happy. You do not justify violating the rules of Allah and the laws of Allah by what you perceive to have been a successful outcome. We as Muslims are not ends or results driven. We are means driven. What Allah holds us accountable is the enactment of His commandments, whether the results come or not. So I'll just stop here. So I'll just keep babbling on. Anything I said good is from Allah alone. Anything I said wrong is from me and shaitan. And Allah and His Messenger are free from me. Subhanakallah bihamdi. Ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk.